You know, there's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. I can guarantee you it will take cities and towns to give that child productive jobs, especially in a setting where an economy is going from low income and aspiring to become high middle income. For India, there is no option but to make sure that the cities and towns deliver on the job challenge. This is without any doubt, especially if the aspiration of reaching high middle income is indeed the aspiration of India. Now, creating jobs is tough enough. Add to it the idea of new cities and jobs, you're now entering a territory that not many countries in the world have entered. It's very difficult to plan a new city. Cities emerge because of economies of scale, because of agglomeration, because of history, and there's a lot of path dependency on cities. To undo that path dependency, you do it at your own risk, because the nature of cities coming together is the very economic force, political force and cultural force, that actually lay out the future growth path of cities. So, what is the big lesson that we have learned from, or the set of lessons we have learned from countries trying to create new cities? One is, and South Korea, I think, is the best example. They built new cities at a time when the country was at a 10% growth rate. So with that kind of growth rate, any inefficiency or cost of creating new cities is actually overwhelmed by the growth rate of that of the nation. So India investing in new cities has to make sure it's investing in new cities at a time that it can sustain 7, 8, 9% growth rate. Otherwise, it's taking on a risk of creating cities at a time when growth rates are down and cannot fuel, if you will, the cost, financing the cost of those cities. I think that's the first conclusion. The second conclusion is creating new cities does not take away from all the hard lessons we have learned that city is run well when it is governed well. So creating a new city without understanding what kind of governance structure you're putting on the new city would then replicate any of the sort of misgovernance of existing cities, if you will. So that's probably the second lesson. The third lesson is an interesting challenge, and I see this in India. Do you govern cities through political decentralization, or do you govern cities through economic decentralization? Political decentralization, I think, is best captured by India's constitution, 74th Amendment. Do you turn around and give your municipal leaders their authority, independence, but their accountability to citizens? So that's one model. And with it comes fiscal flows, expenditure. We know what that is. The other model is what I think India has coined very well, the SPV model. Right? Can you run cities through SPVs? And I've asked myself, what does that mean? And I think the tension there is SPV a approach to attract finance, or is SPV an approach to actually create corporate delivery system? So Sao Paulo has the world's largest water utility. It's a public water utility. It's governed under companies law. It raises its money in the New York Stock Exchange, right? That's a real SPV that has operational and investment responsibility. It raises its own money, and it is responsible to the city and the state of Sao Paulo. Or is SPV simply a way of putting projects together and being able to contract out projects or to pool money together without all the governance story? Final point, the country that has done the SPV model really well is Chile. Small country, not a giant country. Huh? And it's done it by creating water companies, electricity companies, solid waste companies that are responsible for raising user charges, responsible for delivering to beneficiaries, responsible for raising money. That's a real corporate model. So the final lesson really is which model do you use to govern new cities? The decentralized political model or the decentralized economic model?